Rain-slicked asphalt reflected blue police lights as Officer Mac Reynolds cradled his partner's limp body. Ajax, the department's most decorated K9, lay barely breathing, his powerful frame now fragile, poisoned by something that left no trace. The precinct's finest tracker reduced to fighting for each shallow breath. The city's veteran medical examiner had never seen such precise toxicology work. This wasn't random. This was calculated, professional. As Reynolds carried his partner through the emergency doors, a security camera captured something unexpected, a luxury sedan returning to the alley, and the mayor's elegant wife hurriedly collecting small vials from behind a dumpster. What sinister experiments could drive a respected philanthropist to poison a police dog? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning had begun like any other in Officer Mac Reynolds' 27-year career. At 52, with salt and pepper hair cropped close to his weathered face, Reynolds moved with the measured confidence of a man who knew his purpose. The kitchen of his modest bungalow smelled of coffee and the specialized kibble he prepared. For Ajax, the Belgian Malinois, who had been his partner for 7 years. "Come on, boy." "Breakfast," Reynolds called, his deep voice softening the way it only did for the dog. Ajax padded into the kitchen, all discipline and dignity until food was involved. His intelligent eyes followed Reynolds' every move, tail wagging with restraint, the mark of his exceptional training. Reynolds fingered the Medal of Valor that hung beside the door. Ajax had earned it last year after tracking a kidnapped child through 5 miles of dense forest during a thunderstorm. The medal was more than metal. It was a testament to their bond, to Ajax's uncanny abilities that sometimes seemed almost supernatural. "Another day keeping the peace," Reynolds murmured as he fastened Ajax's tactical vest. The Oak Ridge Police Department was buzzing when they arrived. Captain Eleanor Vega stood in the bullpen, her posture military straight despite her 58 years. The captain had climbed through the ranks when female officers were still novelties, and she'd earned every promotion with twice the effort of her male counterparts. "Reynolds, Ajax?" she acknowledged with a nod. "Mayor's making noise about response times in the North District again." Reynolds suppressed a sigh. "Election year, isn't it always?" Vega's lined face cracked a rare smile. "Keep your nose clean. Today, Mayor Harrington's hosting pharmaceutical executives this afternoon, showing off our model city." Reynolds had seen Richard Harrington's campaign posters for 2 decades now, the square jaw and confident smile that never reached his eyes. 20 years in office had transformed the once idealistic attorney into a political fixture whose obsession with legacy overshadowed service. "His wife still running that shelter renovation project?" Reynolds asked, remembering the ribbon-cutting ceremony where Dr. Vanessa Harrington had charmed everyone with her passionate speech about animal welfare. "Expanding it, apparently. Got some research partnership with Westlake University." Vega glanced down at Ajax. "She was asking about our K9 program last month. Wanted to know about their training capabilities." Something in her tone made Reynolds look up. "Professional interest?" "Maybe." Vega shrugged. "Just seemed odd for a veterinarian to be so interested in the tactical aspects." The call came in just after noon. Suspicious activity near the Riverfront Industrial District. Perfect for Ajax. Reynolds let his partner take the lead as they patrolled the maze of warehouses and loading docks, some abandoned since manufacturing had moved overseas decades ago. Ajax moved with purpose, alert to every sound, scent, and shadow. Then suddenly, his behavior changed. His ears pricked forward, body tensing with recognition of something only he could detect. "What is it, boy?" Reynolds murmured, scanning the area. Ajax whined softly, unusual for him, and moved toward a narrow alley between 2 derelict buildings. Reynolds radioed their position, following as Ajax trotted forward. With increasing urgency, "Slow down, Ajax. Wait for backup," Reynolds called, But the dog had caught something significant. He disappeared around a corner, his tags jingling faintly in the distance. Ajax! Reynolds quickened his pace, turning the corner to find an empty passage strewn with debris. Ajax, come! No response. No familiar bark or sound of approaching paws. A cold weight settled in Reynolds' stomach as he drew his sidearm. Dispatch Officer Reynolds. I've lost visual on K9 Ajax at the 400 block of Sawyer Street. Requesting additional units for search. Only. Static answered. The buildings here were known for creating dead zones in radio coverage. Reynolds continued forward, calling for his partner, listening for any response. The alley ended in a small courtyard surrounded by loading docks. And there, sprawled on his side behind a dumpster, lay Ajax, unnaturally still. Detective Sophia Chen flicked her pen against the notepad, studying the inventory list from Westlake University's Veterinary Research Center. At 48, Chen had spent 20 years working cases in San Francisco before relocating to Oak Ridge 6 months ago. Her colleagues called it a step down. She called it a strategic retreat. These equipment thefts started 3 months ago, she asked, glancing up at Dr. Marcus Webb. The researcher nodded, pushing his wire-rimmed glasses higher on his nose. At 55, Webb carried himself with the careful precision of a man accustomed to measuring compounds that could kill in milligrams. Yes? First, small items, pipettes, centrifuge tubes, then more specialized equipment. Webb gestured to the list. Last week it was a portable spectrometer and several controlled compounds. Which compounds exactly? Chen pressed. Webb hesitated. Primarily neurological research materials, enzyme inhibitors, synthetic proteins. Nothing with street value, which is why campus security didn't prioritize the investigation. Chen circled an item on her list. But this one, NPXT5, what is it? A developmental compound for nervous system research, still experimental. Webb's fingers drummed anxiously. On the desk. Detective, these aren't recreational drugs. They're useless to anyone without advanced training in veterinary pharmacology. Chen noted the evasion. Someone with training like Dr. Vanessa Harrington? Webb's expression tightened. The mayor's wife was one of our most brilliant researchers before she left academia, but that was 15 years ago, yet she still maintains lab privileges here. She's a major donor and sits on our advisory board. Webb's tone grew defensive. Dr. Harrington's animal shelter partnership provides valuable data for our humane treatment studies. Chen tucked away her notepad. I'd like to see the security. Logs for after-hours access, particularly for the restricted storage areas. As she left Westlake's gleaming research building, Chen's phone buzzed. The screen displayed a campus security badge, Dr. Vanessa Harrington's credentials showing access to restricted areas at 11:45 p.m. 3 nights earlier, just before the latest theft report. Across town, Reynolds knelt beside Ajax's motionless, of form, his hands trembling as they searched for signs of life. The dog's breathing was shallow, labored. His eyes, usually alert and intelligent, were unfocused. Ajax, stay with me, boy. Reynolds gathered the large dog into his arms. Ajax's normally powerful body now terrifyingly limp. Reynolds's radio crackled back to life as he reached the street. Officer Reynolds, report status. Officer down. K9 officer down, Reynolds shouted, his voice breaking. Ajax is unresponsive, possible poisoning. Need immediate veterinary assistance at Sawyer Street Industrial Complex. He couldn't wait for an ambulance. Reynolds placed Ajax in the back of his cruiser and sped toward Oak Ridge Veterinary Emergency Hospital, lights flashing and siren wailing. Dr. Karishma Patel met him at the emergency entrance, her calm efficiency a stark contrast to Reynolds. Panic! Her team transferred Ajax to a gurney. How long has he been like this? She asked, checking Ajax's pupils. 20 minutes since I found him. He was fine before that. Dr. Patel frowned at the dog's symptoms. This isn't typical toxin exposure. No vomiting, no external signs. She looked up at Reynolds. We need to run tests immediately. This looks like a targeted neurological agent. As the team rushed Ajax into treatment, Reynolds noticed something clutched in the dog's front paw, a small glass fragment curved like part of a vial. He carefully removed it, placing it in an evidence bag, just as Captain Vega strode through the emergency doors. "How is he?" she demanded. Reynolds shook his head, words failing him. He handed her the evidence bag instead. Vega examined the glass fragment. "What did he find out there, Reynolds?" "I don't know, but someone didn't want him finding it." Reynolds' voice hardened. "This wasn't an accident. Someone poisoned my partner." The captain's phone rang. She answered it, her expression darkening. As she listened, "That was dispatch," she said after hanging up. "Security camera from a building on Sawyer Street caught something interesting. A car entering that alley shortly after the time you radioed in." "What kind of car?" "A silver Lexus sedan." Vega's eyes met his. "Registered to the mayor's household." The veterinary hospital's treatment room hummed with urgent activity. Ajax lay on the steel table, connected to monitors that beeped with alarming irregularity. Dr. Patel moved with practiced efficiency, inserting an IV while a technician drew blood samples. "His neurological responses are severely compromised," Dr. Patel explained, her gentle Indian accent more pronounced under stress. "Whatever this toxin is, it's targeting his central nervous system specifically." Reynolds stood rigid by the wall, unwilling to leave but unable to help. "Can you counteract it?" "Not until we identify it." Dr. Patel gestured to a technician. "Rush these samples to toxicology. Mark them highest priority." Captain Vega entered, her face grim. "Reynolds, we need to talk." She glanced at Ajax. "How is he?" "Fighting," Reynolds answered, his voice hollow. They stepped into the hallway, where Vega handed him a tablet showing security footage. "Camera caught this 90 minutes after you transported Ajax here." The grainy video showed a silver Lexus stopping in the alley. A woman emerged, elegant even in the poor quality footage, her movements precise and purposeful. She looked around, before retrieving something from behind the dumpster where Ajax had been found. "That's Vanessa Harrington," Reynolds confirmed, jaw tightening. What was she looking for? More importantly, what did she find? Vega took back the tablet. "I've initiated a full investigation. This is an attack on an officer." Reynolds' phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Patel. "Initial toxicology results. Need to speak immediately." Back in the lab, Dr. Patel pointed to a complex molecular structure on her computer screen. "This compound doesn't match any known toxin in our database. It's synthetic, highly sophisticated. Can you treat it?" "Reynolds," asked Dr. Patel, shook her head. "Not without knowing more about its composition and mechanism. This isn't street drugs or common poison. This was created in a lab, a very advanced one." "Like a university research lab?" Vega asked. "Precisely that level of sophistication, Dr. Patel confirmed. Whoever created this has extensive knowledge of canine neurology." Vega's phone rang. She answered, listening intently before hanging up. "Tech team found something on the building's external cameras. The same Lexus was in that alley earlier today before you and Ajax arrived." Reynolds' hands clenched into fists. "She left something there, something Ajax found, and came back to retrieve when she realized what happened," Vega finished. "We need to move carefully here, Reynolds. These are serious implications." "My partner is dying," Reynolds said, his voice dangerously quiet. "I don't care who's involved." Across town, Detective Chen sat in her cramped office, reviewing security footage from Westlake University. The timestamp showed 11:52 p.m. 3 nights ago. Dr. Vanessa Harrington used her badge to enter the restricted storage area, leaving 20 minutes later with a small case. Chen's computer pinged with an alert, the report she'd requested on recent police K9 deployments. She scrolled through it, stopping when she noticed a pattern. 3 K9 units had been dispatched to areas near Westlake University in the past month. Each time, Dr. Harrington's badge had been used within 24 hours. Before or after, her desk phone rang. "Detective Chen." "Detective, this is Captain Vega. I need you at Oak Ridge Veterinary Emergency. We have a K9 officer down, potentially poisoned with an unknown compound." "Synthetic, possibly neurological?" Chen asked, already reaching for her jacket. A pause on the line. "How did you know that?" "I'm investigating thefts of similar compounds from Westlake." "I'll be there in 15 minutes. Chen gathered her files, adding the badge access records to her folder. As she headed for the door, her phone chimed with a new email, the completed toxicology report on the substance found in Ajax's bloodstream, forwarded from the veterinary hospital. The report contained a molecular diagram that looked eerily similar to one of the stolen compounds from Westlake, NPXT5, but with subtle modifications. At the bottom was a note from the lab technician: "Unknown neurotoxin. Appears designed specifically for canine neural pathways, similar to research compounds. No known antidote." Detective Chen arrived at the veterinary hospital to find Officer Reynolds maintaining a silent vigil beside his partner's bed. Ajax lay unnaturally still, the rise and fall of his chest barely perceptible. "Officer Reynolds, I'm Detective Sophia Chen." She approached carefully, recognizing the protective posture of a handler watching over his wounded partner. "I'm investigating pharmaceutical thefts at Westlake University." Reynolds looked up, his eyes red-rimmed but sharp. "What does that have to do with Ajax?" Chen placed her folder on the small table. "The toxin in your partner's system matches a modified version of a compound stolen from Westlake 3 days ago. NPXT5, an experimental neurological agent." Reynolds straightened. "Modified how?" "Specifically tailored to canine neural pathways." Chen watched his expression harden. "Someone with extensive knowledge of veterinary pharmacology altered it." "Captain." Vega entered, nodding to Chen. "You two have met." "Good. Detective Chen may have just connected some dots for us." Chen spread out her evidence: security access logs, theft reports, and the toxicology results. Dr. Vanessa Harrington accessed the Westlake restricted storage area the night the compounds were stolen. She has a background in neurological research and current access to their facilities. Reynolds studied the security badge photo. "Why would the mayor's wife poison a police dog? That's what we need to find out," Vega said. "But we need to tread carefully. Mayor Harrington wields considerable influence in this city." "I don't care if it's the governor's wife," Reynolds snapped. "She poisoned my partner." Chen stepped between them. "We need evidence that will stand up to extreme scrutiny. If we're accusing the mayor's wife, we can't afford mistakes." Vega nodded. "Detective Chen is right. We do this by the book, meticulously." She turned to Chen. "What's your next step?" "Follow Dr. Harrington, see where she goes, who she meets." Chen glanced at Reynolds. 2 sets of eyes would be better." Reynolds looked at Ajax, then back to Chen. "Dr. Patel says there's nothing more they can do until they identify an antidote." "I'll have officers posted here," Vega assured him. "If anything changes with Ajax, you'll know immediately." Reynolds reluctantly agreed. "Where do we start?" "Doctor." "Harrington is scheduled to be at the animal shelter this afternoon," Chen said. "We'll begin there." As they left, Dr. Patel pulled Reynolds aside. "I've started him on supportive therapy, but we're essentially buying time. Without an antidote." "She didn't need to finish." Reynolds nodded grimly before following Chen. The Oak Ridge Animal Shelter occupied a renovated warehouse on the edge of downtown. A plaque beside the entrance bore the Harrington Foundation logo and proclaimed, "Compassionate care for all creatures." From their unmarked car across the street, Reynolds and Chen watched Dr. Harrington's Lexus pull into the reserved parking space. She emerged looking every bit the respected philanthropist. Designer clothing, understated enough to appear modest, hair expertly styled to seem effortless. Hard to picture her retrieving evidence from behind a dumpster. Reynolds muttered. People compartmentalize, Chen replied. To her, that might have been an unfortunate necessity to protect her work. They observed Dr. Harrington moving through the shelter, pausing to check charts and speak with staff. After an hour, she selected 3 dogs from different areas, instructed staff to prepare them for transport, and loaded them into crates in her car. Where's she taking them? Reynolds wondered aloud. Let's find out. Chen started the car, maintaining a discreet distance as the Lexus pulled away. Dr. Harrington drove to the industrial district, not far from where Ajax had been poisoned. She parked behind a nondescript building with a faded sign. Harrington, Development Properties, future site of Oak Ridge Innovation Center. Using a key card similar to her Westlake University badge, she entered through a service door, then returned to transport the crated dogs inside. Mayor's Development Company owns this building, Chen noted, checking property records on her tablet. It's been vacant for years, supposedly awaiting redevelopment. Reynolds' expression darkened. Not vacant anymore. She's running some kind of operation in there. And I'm betting it's not approved by any ethics committee, Chen said. We need to see what's inside. Reynolds sat beside Ajax's bed in the veterinary ICU, his large hand gently stroking the dog's head. The Belgian Malinois lay unnaturally still, his breathing shallow and labored. The seizures are becoming more frequent, Dr. Patel said, checking the monitor readings. Each one causes more neurological damage. Is he in pain? Reynolds asked, his voice barely audible. We've got him on pain management, but... Dr. Patel hesitated. Officer Reynolds, I need to be honest with you. Without an antidote, Ajax's chances are diminishing hourly. The toxin is attacking his central nervous system in a way I've never seen before. Reynolds nodded, his jaw tight. How long? 2 days, maybe 3. She placed a compassionate hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry. After Dr. Patel left, Reynolds leaned close to his partner. I'm going to find who did this to you, boy. I promise. His phone buzzed. A text from Chen. Meet me at the station. Found something. At the police station, Chen had commandeered a small conference room. Photos and documents covered one wall, connected by colored strings. Vanessa Harrington completed her PhD in veterinary neuropharmacology at Stanford, Chen explained, pointing to an academic journal. Her early research focused on enhancing cognitive and sensory capabilities in service animals. Like police canines? Reynolds asked. Exactly, but her methods were controversial. Her last academic paper was rejected after peer review raised ethical concerns. Chen handed him a printout. She left academia and married Richard Harrington shortly after. Reynolds scanned the document. Says here she was trying to enhance olfactory sensitivity in detection dogs through chemical intervention. Basically trying to create super sniffer dogs through drugs instead of breeding and training, Chen confirmed. The scientific community deemed her methods potentially harmful to the animals. She pointed to surveillance photos of the building. They'd observed. I've been watching Dr. Harrington's movements. She visits this facility almost daily, always with animals from the shelter. The ones that never come back, said a new voice. They turned to find a young woman with a press badge in the doorway. Ellie Morgan, Oak Ridge Chronicle. She introduced herself. I've been investigating record discrepancies at the Harrington animal shelter for months. This is an active investigation, Chen began, but Morgan cut her off. Dogs go in. Paperwork says they're adopted or euthanized for health reasons, but the numbers don't add up. She slid a flash drive across the table. Shelter workers are afraid to talk, but one gave me this before quitting. Internal records showing dozens of animals selected for special program by Dr. Harrington personally. Chen plugged in the drive. How did you connect this to our investigation? Police scanners, K9 officer down, poisoned in the industrial district? Morgan raised an eyebrow. I've been tracking animals disappearing into that same area for months. Reynolds and Chen exchanged glances. Captain Vega wouldn't approve of sharing information with a reporter, but Morgan clearly had valuable intelligence. We need to get inside. That building, Reynolds said finally. There's a delivery scheduled tonight, Morgan offered. Monthly supply drop. I've been watching the pattern. That's our window, Chen agreed. But we need probable cause for a warrant. Reynolds' phone rang. A veterinary hospital, he answered, listening intently before hanging up. Ajax had another seizure. Dr. Patel says his kidneys are starting to fail. His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly. We're running out of time. Then we don't wait for a warrant, Chen decided. We do surveillance tonight. If we see evidence of illegal activity, we call it in as exigent circumstances. As darkness fell, they positioned themselves on the roof of an adjacent building. Through binoculars, they observed a truck arrive at Dr. Harrington's secret facility. Workers unloaded laboratory equipment and cages. That's definitely not shelter supplies, Morgan whispered, documenting everything with a long-range camera. Through an upper window, they glimpsed Dr. Harrington in a lab coat, making notes as she moved between cages containing various dogs. On a desk beside her lay a leather-bound journal. We need that journal, Chen said. It could contain the formula for whatever poisoned Ajax. Reynolds watched Dr. Harrington methodically inject a solution into one of the dogs, then record its reaction. His expression hardened with cold resolve. Tonight, he said. We're going in tonight. Captain Vega called Reynolds and Chen into her office early the next morning, her expression stormy. The mayor just spent 20 minutes on the phone with me, she said without preamble. Claims his wife is being harassed by my officers. Care to explain? Reynolds met her gaze steadily. We're following evidence in Ajax's poisoning, Captain. That evidence leads to Vanessa Harrington. Vega sighed, lowering her voice. Listen to me carefully. Officially, I'm ordering you both to back off until we have more concrete evidence. Unofficially, she glanced at her closed door. Keep me informed of every step. If you're going after the mayor's wife, your case needs to be airtight. After they left her office, Chen turned to Reynolds. She's protecting us while giving herself plausible deniability. Smart, Reynolds acknowledged. Where's Morgan? Working her sources about offshore accounts tied to the mayor's redevelopment projects. Says she's found financial connections to a private pharmaceutical company. Reynolds checked his watch. I need to see Ajax. At the veterinary hospital, Dr. Patel was reviewing test results with a tall, bearded man in a lab coat. Officer Reynolds, this is Dr. Webb from Westlake University, she introduced them. I consulted him about Ajax's condition. Dr. Webb extended his hand. I'm sorry about your partner, officer. Dr. Patel shared the toxicology report with me. The compound is similar to research I'm familiar with. Can you help develop an antidote? Reynolds asked, hope edging into his voice. Webb hesitated. Possibly, but I'd need to know the exact formula used. These compounds are highly specific. A slight modification can completely change how they interact with neural pathways. Reynolds glanced at Ajax, noticing subtle tremors running through the dog's body even in his sedated state. Time is running out. I understand, Webb said. The research notes would contain the formula details we need. That night, Reynolds and Chen prepared to enter Dr. Harrington's secret lab. Morgan had provided building schematics obtained from city records, identifying a service entrance with minimal security. Remember, this is reconnaissance only, Chen reminded Reynolds as they parked several blocks away. We document what we find, but touch nothing unless it's directly related to the compound that poisoned Ajax. The building stood dark and quiet. Using the security badge Chen had cloned from Dr. Harrington's access data, they slipped through the service entrance. Inside, sterile hallways led to a large room filled with sophisticated laboratory equipment. Stainless steel cages lined one wall, each containing a dog of different breed and size. Some slept peacefully, others exhibited unusual behaviors, pacing with unnatural precision or staring with unsettling focus. Jesus, Reynolds whispered, approaching the cages. The dog showed no typical reaction to a stranger, no barking, no curiosity. Their behavior seemed programmed, mechanical. Chen photographed everything methodically. "Look at these," she said, pointing to labels on the cages. Each bore a code and evaluation metrics. Subject C17, Olfactory Enhancement Series 5, Day 12. Scent detection range, 3.2 kilometers, 0.4 kilos from baseline. She's enhancing their abilities, Reynolds realized, creating super detection dogs. At what cost? Chen nodded toward a dog trembling uncontrollably in the corner of its cage. They found Dr. Harrington's office adjacent to the lab. Chen photographed documents while Reynolds searched for the research journal they'd observed. "Found it," he said, carefully opening a leather-bound notebook on the desk. The pages contained chemical formulas, observation notes, and testing protocols, all in a precise, meticulous hand. Reynolds photographed the pages until he found one headed NPXT5 derivative testing. "This is it, the compound that poisoned Ajax." A noise from the hallway froze them both. Flashlight beams swept under the door, accompanied by the sound of voices. "Security patrol," Chen whispered. "We need to go. Now." They slipped out through a rear exit seconds before security entered the office. Outside, they hurried back to their vehicle. "Did you get everything?" Chen asked as they drove away. Reynolds checked his phone, scrolling through the photos. Formula, testing protocols, notes on side effects. Everything Dr. Webb needs to develop an antidote. And everything we need to bring down Vanessa Harrington, Chen added grimly. Ajax suffered another seizure that morning, his third in 24 hours. Reynolds watched helplessly as Dr. Patel and her team worked to stabilize him, his powerful body contorting unnaturally before going terrifyingly still. "The neurotoxin is causing progressive damage," Dr. Patel explained afterward, her voice gentle but clinical. "Even if we develop an antidote, there may be permanent effects." "What kind of effects?" Reynolds asked, stroking Ajax's head as the sedated dog lay unnaturally quiet. "Impaired motor function, reduced sensory capacity, possible cognitive deficits." She met his eyes directly. "He may never work as a K9 officer again." Reynolds nodded, absorbing the blow. "As long as he lives." Dr. Webb arrived, reviewing the photos of Dr. Harrington's research journal on Chen's laptop. "This is definitely the compound that poisoned your partner," he confirmed. "A modified version of NPXT5 designed to enhance olfactory sensitivity, but with significant neural side effects." "Can you create an antidote?" Reynolds asked. "I've already started," Webb replied, "but some of these modifications are unexpected. I'll need more time." "Time Ajax doesn't have," Reynolds reminded him. Chen entered the room, ending a phone call. That was Morgan. She found something interesting. A graduate student who worked with Dr. Harrington went missing 6 months ago. Thomas Reeves, 26, specializing in veterinary neuropharmacology. She placed a missing person report on the table. His family filed this when he stopped responding to calls. University says he withdrew for personal reasons, but his belongings were never cleared from his apartment. "Connection to our case?" Reynolds asked. "He was assigned to Dr. Harrington's shelter research project. Last communication to his parents mentioned ethical concerns about the work." Dr. Webb shifted uncomfortably. "Thomas was brilliant, dedicated, not the type to abandon his research without explanation." Chen studied Webb closely. "You knew him?" "He was my student before Dr. Harrington recruited him." Webb removed his glasses, pinching the bridge of his nose. "I should have asked more questions when he disappeared." Reynolds leaned forward. "What exactly was Harrington having him do? Officially, developing better medical treatments for shelter animals." Webb hesitated. "But Thomas mentioned they were pushing beyond therapeutic applications into enhancement." Chen's phone buzzed with a text from Morgan. "Mayor announcing major pharma deal tomorrow. Cyfex Laboratories investing $50 million in new research center. Connected. to offshore accounts. Across town, Mayor Richard Harrington stood at the podium in City Hall's press room, his campaign-perfect smile gleaming under the lights. "Tomorrow marks a historic investment in Oak Ridge's future," he announced to the assembled press. "Cyfex Laboratories has recognized our city's potential to become a hub for cutting-edge pharmaceutical research." In the front row, Dr. Vanessa Harrington applauded politely, her elegant appearance betraying no hint of her nighttime activities. As the press conference ended, her phone chimed with a security alert from her lab. Back at the station, Reynolds and Chen expanded their investigation. Bored. A photo of Thomas Reeves now held central position, connected to both Westlake University and Dr. Harrington. If Reeves threatened to expose her research, she had motive to silence him, Chen reasoned. But why risk poisoning a police K9? Reynolds countered. That guaranteed investigation. Maybe she didn't intend to, Chen suggested. What if Ajax found something Reeves left behind, something that could expose her operation? Reynolds considered this. Ajax has the best nose in the department. If Reeves hid evidence in that alley, and Dr. Harrington was retrieving it when the security camera caught her, Chen finished. Captain Vega entered, her expression grave. Just got word from the mayor's office. They've filed a formal harassment complaint against both of you. You're officially ordered to cease all investigation into Dr. Harrington. Reynolds started to protest, but Vega raised a hand. Officially, I'm removing you both from duty pending review. She lowered her voice. Unofficially, you have 48 hours to find concrete evidence before this gets buried forever. As she left, Chen's phone chimed. An anonymous text message contained only an image. A car with the Westlake University parking permit, abandoned in a wooded area outside town. The license plate matched Thomas Reeves's vehicle. Someone's sending us breadcrumbs, Chen said. Reynolds grabbed his jacket. Let's follow them. Thomas Reeves's abandoned car yielded few clues. A university parking permit, empty coffee cups, and technical journals. Forensics found no blood or signs of struggle, only a fine layer of dust suggesting it had sat untouched for months. Dead end, Reynolds said as they left the impound lot. Maybe not. Chen held up an evidence bag containing a crumpled receipt. Gas station 3 blocks from where Ajax was poisoned, dated the day Reeves disappeared. That evening, the Oak Ridge Chronicle published Morgan's article, Questions Raised About Animal Shelter Death Records. It detailed statistical anomalies. In euthanasia reports and unnamed shelter employees' concerns about animals selected for special research. The mayor's office issued an immediate statement calling the article irresponsible journalism and threatening legal action. Dr. Harrington made no public comment, but security at the animal shelter doubled overnight. She's getting nervous, Chen observed as they monitored the situation from their unofficial command center, Morgan's cluttered apartment. Not nervous enough, Reynolds replied, checking his phone for updates from Dr. Patel. Ajax's condition remained critical but stable. Morgan entered with fresh coffee and printouts. Found something interesting in public records. Before Cyfex Laboratories approached Oak Ridge, they were negotiating with 3 other cities. All deals fell through after questions about their military research contracts. Military? Reynolds asked. They develop enhanced biosystems for defense applications, Morgan explained. Most details are classified, but there were congressional hearings last year about ethical concerns. Chen spread out the documents. So a company that needs a friendly regulatory environment connects with our image-conscious mayor, whose wife happens to be conducting unorthodox animal experiments. And a graduate student who threatened to expose it all disappears. Reynolds finished. Morgan pointed to another document, a project proposal titled Next Generation Biological Detection Systems. Cyfex is specifically interested in olfactory enhancement technologies for security applications, she noted. Exactly what Dr. Harrington is working on. They're developing super sniffers for military use, Reynolds realized. Traditional canine training takes years and has limitations. If they could chemically enhance detection abilities, billions in defense contracts, Chen concluded. Motive for covering up unethical research methods. Reynolds' phone rang. Dr. Patel. Ajax had another seizure, she reported. We've stabilized him, but Dr. Webb still hasn't finalized the antidote formula. As Reynolds hung up, Captain Vega called Chen. You two need to watch your backs, she warned. Mayor's security. Detail has been asking questions about your whereabouts, and there's plainclothes surveillance outside both your homes. They're getting desperate, Chen said after relaying the message. We need hard evidence connecting Dr. Harrington's experiments to Cyfex, Reynolds insisted. Something that proves. The mayor knew about the unethical research. Morgan tapped her laptop. City Council meets tomorrow to approve the Cyfex deal. Mayor's making a big show of it. Press conference, ceremonial signing. Both Harringtons will be there. Along with Cyfex executives, Chen added. Perfect opportunity to confront them publicly. Reynolds shook his head. Too risky without solid evidence. They'll deny everything and destroy whatever's left. Then we need to search the mayor's office tonight, Chen decided. If he knew about his wife's experiments, there must be documentation. Reynolds considered the risks. Breaking into the mayor's office could end both our careers. Ajax is dying, Chen reminded him softly, and we have no idea what happened to Thomas Reeves. That night, using Captain Vega's security credentials, they entered City Hall through the employee entrance. The mayor's office suite occupied the top floor, its imposing wooden doors locked for the night. Chen made quick work of the lock while Reynolds kept watch. Inside, they searched methodically, filing cabinets, computer files, hidden safes. In the desk's bottom drawer, behind a false panel, Reynolds discovered a leather portfolio stamped with the Cyfex logo. Inside lay a detailed contract with appendices, referencing proprietary detection enhancement protocols developed by Dr. V. Harrington. This proves the connection, he said, photographing each page. Chen found something even more damning, a confidential memo regarding containment of security. Breach T. Reeves situation. The mayor knew about Reeves, she said grimly. He helped cover it up. As they prepared to leave, headlights swept across the window. Through the blinds, they spotted the mayor's car pulling into his reserved space. He's not supposed to be here, Chen whispered. We need to go, now. Reynolds and Chen slipped out through the mayor's private bathroom window, descending via the maintenance ladder just as the office door opened. From the shadows of the parking structure, they watched Mayor Harrington enter with a Cyfex executive, their hushed conversation suggesting urgent business unusual for midnight. That was too close, Chen whispered as they reached her car. Reynolds checked the photos on his phone, contract pages, memos, meeting notes, all implicating both Harrington's and Cyfex in unethical research. We have enough to request warrants, Chen said. Not yet. Reynolds stared at the memo about Thomas Reeves. We need to find him, dead or alive. At the veterinary hospital, Ajax's condition had deteriorated further. Dr. Patel met them with grave concern etched in her tired face. His organs are beginning to fail, she explained. Kidneys first, then liver. The toxin is proving remarkably persistent. Dr. Webb looked up from his microscope. I've isolated the active component in Dr. Harrington's formula, but creating an effective antidote is challenging. The compound was designed to bind permanently to neural receptors. How much longer can you keep him alive? Reynolds asked, his voice steady despite the desperate fear in his eyes. 36 hours. Maybe less. Dr. Patel's clinical detachment slipped, revealing genuine sympathy. I'm sorry, Officer Reynolds. As they left the hospital, Morgan called with news. I received something anonymous through the paper's secure tip line. Flash drive with a video file. You need to see this now. The video showed a young man, Thomas Reeves, according to his university ID, recording himself in what appeared to be a small apartment. His expression was tense, eyes darting frequently toward the window. "If you're watching this, something's happened to me," he began. "I've been working with Dr. Vanessa Harrington on what was supposed to be shelter animal medicine. The reality is much darker." Reeves detailed how Dr. Harrington's project had shifted from therapeutic treatments to enhancement experiments, specifically targeting canine olfactory capabilities. The compounds we're developing could revolutionize detection animals. But, at tremendous cost, the test subjects suffer neurological damage, seizures, organ failure. When I objected, Dr. Harrington said the military applications justified casualties in the research phase. He explained discovering that euthanasia records were falsified to cover the deaths of experimental animals. When I threatened to report to the ethics committee, she reminded me that her husband controls half the city's funding to the university. Reeves described gathering evidence, formulas, test results, video of the experiments. "I've hidden copies at 3 locations. One set is in my lab locker. Another is in a waterproof container behind the drainage pipe in the alley beside the old textile factory. The third is..." The video abruptly cut off as Reeves looked up, startled by something off-camera. The alley where Ajax was poisoned, Reynolds realized. He must have found what Reeves hid there, and Dr. Harrington returned to retrieve it after Ajax was taken away, Chen added. "There's more," Morgan said, opening another file. "Looks like..." Reeves managed to restart the recording. The second video showed Reeves speaking hurriedly, his apartment now dark, except for a desk lamp. "Someone followed me from the lab today. Black SUV, tinted windows, mayor's security detail. I'm leaving tonight, heading somewhere they can't find me. If anything happens, the full evidence package is in a locker at Oak Ridge Bus Terminal. Combination 2714-33. The timestamp showed the video was recorded 6 months ago, the night Reeves disappeared. "We need to get to that locker," Reynolds said. The Oak Ridge Bus Terminal was nearly deserted at 1 a.m. They located locker 733 in the long-term storage area. Chen entered the combination with steady hands. Inside was a sealed waterproof pouch containing a hard drive, USB drives, and a spiral-bound laboratory notebook. A handwritten note read, "Complete record of Harrington Cyfex experiments, including video documentation. Backup copy with my attorney, to be released if I disappear." "This is everything we need," Chen said. "But where is Reeves?" Reynolds wondered. Before they could leave, Reynolds's phone lit up with a call from Dr. Patel. "Come quickly," she said, her voice breaking. "Ajax is crashing. I don't think he's going to make it through the night." Reynolds and Chen rushed to the veterinary hospital, evidence still clutched in their hands. The emergency room buzzed with frantic activity as Dr. Patel and her team worked desperately to stabilize Ajax. "Multiple organ systems failing," Dr. Patel explained, between issuing rapid instructions to her staff. "We've got him on full life support, but he's not responding to conventional treatments." Through the chaos, Reynolds noticed Dr. Webb hunched over a microscope in the adjacent lab, surrounded by equipment and formulas hastily scrawled on a whiteboard. "Any progress on the antidote?" he asked, voice taut with restrained emotion. Webb looked up, exhaustion evident in his reddened eyes. "I've synthesized a compound that should counteract the neurotoxin, but I can't guarantee..." "We found Reeves's research," Chen interrupted, placing the waterproof pouch on the counter. "Might be something useful in here." Webb quickly opened the notebook, flipping through pages of dense chemical formulas and testing protocols. "This is Thomas's handwriting," he confirmed. "Detailed notes on all the compounds they tested, including..." His eyes widened. "Including antidotes they developed for their own safety." He rapidly scanned several pages, then moved to the computer to access the hard drive. Reeves documented everything meticulously. "Here, the NPXT5 derivative and its counteragent." "You make it?" Reynolds asked. The base compound, yes. We have most components in our research pharmacy. Webb was already reaching for his phone. I'll need emergency access to the university lab for specialized equipment. While Webb made arrangements, Chen examined the files on the hard drive. Reynolds, look at this. She'd opened a video file showing Dr. Harrington in her secret lab, calmly explaining to someone off camera, "The mayor has secured all necessary approvals through back channels. Cyfex is prepared to begin Phase 2 funding as soon as we demonstrate successful enhancement in 3 consecutive subjects." The camera panned to show cages containing dogs with various monitoring devices attached to them. Dr. Harrington continued, "Subject C12 shows 400% increase in olfactory sensitivity with minimal side effects. The military applications are obvious. Detection capabilities far beyond any trained K9, deployable in half the time." A man's voice, presumably Thomas Reeves, asked from behind the camera, "What about the seizures, the neural degradation?" "Acceptable. Losses in the research phase," Dr. Harrington replied dismissively. "The mayor assures me Cyfex has arranged for regulatory exceptions through their Pentagon contacts." The video continued with detailed documentation of experiments, each more disturbing than the last. Reynolds watched with growing horror as test animals experienced the same symptoms, now threatening Ajax's life. "This proves everything," Chen said. "The mayor's direct involvement, the military contract, the cover-up. And it proves they knew exactly what would happen to any animal exposed to these compounds," Reynolds added grimly. Dr. Webb returned. "University security is meeting me at the lab in 15 minutes. I'll have the antidote components within the hour." "I'm coming with you," Reynolds insisted. "No," Webb replied firmly. "Stay with your partner. I'll work faster without distractions." As Webb left, Captain Vega arrived, out of uniform but radiating authority. "Brought some unofficial backup," she explained, nodding toward 2 trusted officers in plain clothes. "What's Ajax's status?" "Critical," Reynolds answered. "Dr. Webb is synthesizing an antidote based on Reeves's research." Chen briefed Vega on their discoveries, while Reynolds sat beside Ajax's bed, gently stroking the dog's head between the monitoring wires. The powerful K9, who had once taken down armed suspects, now lay utterly vulnerable, each labored breath a battle. "Hang on, partner," Reynolds whispered. "Help is coming." An hour later, Dr. Webb hadn't returned. His phone went straight to voicemail. "Chen tried the university lab. No answer." "Something's wrong," Reynolds said, checking his watch again. Vega nodded to one of her officers. "Davis, drive to Westlake. Find Dr. Webb." Before Davis could leave, Dr. Patel burst in. "Ajax's kidneys are shutting down completely. He has maybe 2 hours without the antidote." Reynolds grabbed his jacket. "I'm going to Dr. Harrington's private lab. If Webb can't make the antidote in time, she'll have it." "That's exactly what they'd expect," Chen warned. "It could be a trap." "I don't care," Reynolds replied. "I'm not letting Ajax die when the cure might be sitting in her lab." "Then we go together," Chen decided, checking her weapon. "All of us." The citywide celebration for Oak Ridge's centennial provided perfect cover for their operation. Downtown streets teemed with revelers, drawing security personnel away from the industrial district where Dr. Harrington's secret lab operated. "Mayor's giving a speech at the gala in 30 minutes, Vega noted, checking her phone. "Dr. Harrington is scheduled to attend." Morgan had supplied them with detailed building schematics and security protocols obtained from a maintenance worker. The journalist would monitor police channels and provide updates from her car parked nearby. "The Centennial Gala gives us our window," Chen explained, as they gathered in an abandoned warehouse across from their target. "Lab should be minimally staffed. We locate the antidote, secure evidence of illegal experimentation, and extract." Reynolds checked his watch, calculating Ajax's remaining time. "Dr. Patel says he has less than 2 hours. Where's Officer Davis with the update on Dr. Webb?" As if summoned by the question, Davis called Captain Vega. "Webb never made it to the university. Lab," he reported. "Security has no record of him entering the building. His car is still in the hospital parking lot." A cold weight settled in Reynolds' stomach. "They've taken him. Or he was working with them all along," Chen suggested. "Either way, we can't." "Wait," Vega decided. "Officer Ramirez will create a diversion at the front entrance. Chen and Reynolds will enter through the loading dock. I'll coordinate from here." Before departing, Reynolds made a final call to Dr. Patel. "Any change?" "He's fighting," she answered, her voice tight with professional restraint. "But his vitals are weakening. Whatever you're doing, hurry." Reynolds knelt beside his tactical bag, removing Ajax's spare collar and running his fingers over the worn leather and service tags. He tucked it into his pocket, a talisman, a reminder of what he was fighting for. "Ready?" Chen asked, checking her weapon one final time. Reynolds nodded, his expression hardened into focused determination. Using the access card cloned from Dr. Harrington's badge, they slipped into the building through the loading dock. The interior was dimly lit, most staff gone for the centennial celebration. A single security guard monitored the entrance, easily distracted when Officer Ramirez staged a minor traffic incident outside. They moved silently through sterile corridors, following the path memorized from the building plans. At the main laboratory doors, Chen's cloned keycard faltered. The security protocol had been updated. "They changed the system," she whispered. Reynolds spotted a ventilation duct. "There's our alternative entrance." The cramped duct led them directly into the lab's storage room. Through a glass partition, they could see the main laboratory, where dogs in various stages of experimentation occupied the monitoring cages. Some paced restlessly. Others lay unnaturally still, connected to IV drips. "Storage refrigerators should be along the back wall," Chen whispered, consulting the building plans. "Compounds would be kept at controlled temperatures." They found the refrigeration units organized with clinical precision, each vial labeled with compound identifiers and batch numbers. Reynolds scanned for anything matching the NPXT5 derivative that had poisoned Ajax. "Here," he said finally, finding a section labeled neurotoxin counteragents. Antidotes for each experimental compound. He photographed the storage system, then carefully selected the vial, matching the formula from Reeves's notes. "This is it." As they prepared to leave, a noise from the main laboratory froze them in place. Through the glass partition, they watched. As a side door opened and Dr. Webb entered, not under duress, but moving with the comfortable familiarity of someone in his own workspace. "He's working with them," Chen whispered, disbelief edging her voice. They watched as Webb checked readings, on several cages making notes on a tablet. Then he opened a cabinet, revealing a secure safe that he unlocked with practiced ease. Inside the safe sat rows of the same compound Reynolds now held, the antidote that could save Ajax's life. He knew all along, Reynolds realized, anger burning, cold in his chest. He was never trying to help Ajax. "We need to confront him," Chen decided. "Find out what happened to Reeves." "Not yet," Reynolds countered, securing the antidote vial in a padded case. "Ajax first. We get this to Dr. Patel. Then we come back for Webb and everything else." They slipped back toward the storage room exit, but as Reynolds reached for the door, the alarm system suddenly blared to life. Red emergency lights bathed the laboratory in pulsing crimson. "Intruder alert," announced an automated voice. "Security protocol activated. All exits sealed." At the Centennial Gala across town, the city's elite gathered in Oak Ridge's historic Grand Hotel ballroom. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over tables adorned with centennial-themed centerpieces, each bearing the city seal and the Harrington Foundation logo. Mayor Richard Harrington worked the room with practiced charm, shaking hands with council members and donors. His wife, Dr. Vanessa Harrington, moved gracefully among pharmaceutical executives, her elegant black dress a stark contrast to the lab coat she'd worn hours earlier. The Cyfex team is impressed with your research, the mayor murmured as they briefly converged near the champagne fountain. The demonstration videos exceeded expectations. Dr. Harrington's smile remained fixed, though her eyes darted toward the exit. Did you speak with Webb? He's not answering my calls. Focus on tonight, the mayor advised, his teeth gleaming beneath the lights. Tomorrow we sign the contract, and all our problems disappear under a mountain of federal funding. Across the ballroom, Captain Vega's cell phone vibrated. The text from Morgan was blunt, alarm triggered at lab. Reynolds and Chen trapped inside. Vega scanned the room, locating the Harringtons by the stage where preparations for the mayor's speech were underway. She approached casually, champagne glass in hand to maintain her cover as a gala attendee. Lovely. Event Mayor Harrington, she said, her smile never reaching her eyes. The perfect distraction, the mayor's expression flickered before regaining its political mask. Captain Vega, I didn't expect to see you here, especially since I specifically requested you handle the harassment complaint against your officers. Oh, I'm handling it personally, Vega assured him. In fact, they've made quite a discovery tonight, something about experimental compounds and missing graduate students. Dr. Harrington's champagne glass trembled slightly. The mayor placed a steadying hand on his wife's arm, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Whatever you think you know, Captain, tread carefully. Accusations against my wife could end your career. Funny thing about careers, Vega replied calmly. They seem much less important when a good officer's partner is dying from an illegal neurotoxin. The mayor's phone buzzed. His face hardened as he read the security alert. If you'll excuse us, Captain, I need to address our guests. As they walked away, Vega texted Morgan, Keep emergency channel open. Be ready to move on my signal. Back. At the lab, Reynolds and Chen crouched behind chemical storage cabinets as security personnel swept the area, weapons drawn. Vega's at the gala, Chen whispered, checking her phone. She's keeping the Harringtons occupied. We need to get this. Antidote to Ajax, Reynolds said, clutching the padded case. Every minute counts. Chen studied the building schematic on her phone. Ventilation shaft leads to the roof. From there, fire escape to the alley. They moved silently toward the shaft entrance, freezing when Dr. Webb's voice echoed through the laboratory's PA system. Officer Reynolds, Detective Chen, I know you're here. You've triggered sensors throughout the facility. His tone was eerily calm. I have security footage of your theft. Surrender now, and perhaps we can discuss terms. Reynolds exchanged glances with Chen. He's stalling. Reynolds, listen to me, Webb continued. That antidote you've stolen, it's experimental. It could kill your partner faster than the toxin. I'm the only one who can properly administer it. He's lying, Chen whispered, trying to get us to reveal our position. Reynolds nodded agreement, but doubt flickered across his face. What if Webb was telling the truth about the antidote? They reached the ventilation shaft and removed the grill. Chen went first, with Reynolds following, the precious antidote secure in his breast pocket. As they navigated the cramped metal pathway, Reynolds' phone vibrated with a text from Dr. Patel. Ajax critical. Organ systems failing. Hurry. At the gala, the mayor took the podium for his speech, Dr. Harrington standing rigidly beside him. Captain Vega positioned herself near the exit, maintaining visual contact while awaiting updates. Citizens of Oak Ridge, the mayor began, his voice booming with rehearsed sincerity. For 100 years our great city has been a beacon of progress and innovation. As he continued, Dr. Harrington's phone chimed with a security alert. She glanced at the screen, then whispered something urgent to her husband. The mayor faltered momentarily before continuing his speech, though his knuckles whitened against the podium. On the laboratory roof, Reynolds and Chen emerged from the ventilation system into the cool night air. Distant fireworks from the centennial celebration illuminated the skyline in bursts of color. Fire escapes on the north side, Chen said, orienting herself. Before they could move, the roof access door burst open, Dr. Webb stepped out, flanked by two security guards with weapons drawn. "I'm afraid I can't let you leave with that antidote, Officer Reynolds," he said calmly. "Not when it represents millions in research and development." Reynolds instinctively positioned himself between Chen and the armed security guards, his hand protectively covering the pocket containing Ajax's antidote. "Your partner was never the target," Dr. Webb said, advancing slowly across the roof. "He simply found something he shouldn't have. Evidence Thomas Reeves hid before disappearing." "Where is Reeves?" Chen demanded, her stance ready for whatever might come next. Webb's expression remained clinical, detached. "Relocated, permanently. The mayor's security team is quite efficient." "You killed him," Reynolds said flatly. "I merely informed the appropriate parties of his breach. What happened afterward wasn't my concern." Webb extended his hand. "The antidote? Please, that compound represents years of research. Research that's killing my partner," Reynolds countered. "Unfortunate collateral damage," Webb replied. "Ajax was exposed to an early prototype, unstable, imprecise. The newer formulations are much more refined." Chen kept her voice steady. "If this was an accident, why not help Ajax from the beginning?" "Because the compound's existence can't become public knowledge until the patents and military contracts are secured," Webb explained with disturbing calmness. "Cyfex is investing $50 million based on our preliminary results. One police dog is an acceptable sacrifice." Reynolds' phone vibrated again. Another text from Dr. Patel. "Critical status. Hours now minutes. Where are you?" "Ajax found Reeves's hidden evidence in that alley," Reynolds pieced together. Dr. Harrington realized what happened and came back. "To retrieve it." Webb nodded. She recognized the symptoms immediately. Ajax had been exposed to NPXT5. She reported it, and we've been monitoring the situation since. "Monitoring?" Chen's voice sharpened. "You've been stringing us along, pretending to help while ensuring Ajax wouldn't survive to raise questions." "The mayor insisted we maintain appearances," Webb admitted. "Public relations are crucial at this stage of the project." The security guards took another step forward, hands resting on their weapons. Reynolds assessed their options, 3 armed men blocking the only clear path to the fire escape. "Last chance," Webb said. "The antidote, now." Reynolds met his gaze steadily. "Tell me something, Doctor. If this project is so important to national security, why all the secrecy? Why not conduct the research through proper channels? Regulatory hurdles, ethical oversight committees, animal rights concerns." Webb's lip curled in contempt. "They all slow progress. Dr. Harrington found a more efficient path. By torturing animals," Reynolds said. "By killing a graduate student who threatened to expose you." Webb's patience visibly thinned. "Enough philosophy. The antidote, or my men will take it from you." The security guards drew their weapons. Before they could advance, the roof access door burst open again. Officer Ramirez appeared, weapon drawn, with Morgan close behind, filming everything on her phone. "OPD, drop your weapons," Ramirez ordered. The momentary distraction gave Reynolds and Chen the opening they needed. Chen tackled the nearest guard, while Reynolds charged Webb, driving him backward. Webb stumbled, his hand shooting out to catch himself and missing the roof's edge. His eyes widened in sudden terror as he began to fall. Reynolds lunged forward, catching Webb's arm at the last possible moment. "Help me!" Webb pleaded, dangling over the 3-story drop. Despite everything, Reynolds braced himself and pulled, dragging the scientist back onto the roof. As Webb collapsed, gasping, Reynolds zip-tied his hands. "Unlike you, I don't consider lives expendable," Reynolds said coldly. With Ramirez covering the subdued security guards, Reynolds, Chen, and Morgan raced down the fire escape to the alley, where Morgan's car waited. "Hospital," Reynolds directed, clutching the antidote. "Fast as you can." As they sped through the night, Chen called Captain Vega. "We have the antidote and Webb in custody. He confessed to everything. Reeves, the military contracts, all of it." The Harringtons just left the gala abruptly. Vega reported. Mayor claimed a family emergency. I'm having them tracked. We'll worry about them after Ajax gets this antidote, Reynolds said, watching the city blur past the windows. Morgan drove with focused intensity, weaving through traffic. With precision, I uploaded Webb's confession to our secure server. It's already being processed for tomorrow's front page. At the veterinary hospital, Dr. Patel met them at the emergency entrance, her expression grave. His vitals are crashing. Whatever you have, we need to administer it now. Reynolds handed her the precious vial. This is the antidote, direct from their lab. Dr. Patel rushed inside with Reynolds close behind, leaving Chen and Morgan to secure the additional evidence. In the treatment room, Ajax lay motionless, the monitoring equipment painting a dire picture of his condition. He's held on this long, Dr. Patel said as she prepared the antidote for injection. That says a lot about his will to live. Reynolds took Ajax's paw in his hand. Come on, partner, fight a little longer. Dr. Patel worked with controlled urgency, carefully measuring the antidote before administering it through Ajax's IV line. The clear liquid disappeared into the tubing, making its way to the dying canine's bloodstream. Now we wait, she said, adjusting the monitoring equipment. The next hour will tell us if it's working. Reynolds nodded, unable to form words past the tightness in his throat. He settled into the chair beside Ajax's bed, one hand resting gently on his partner's head. Chen entered quietly. Just got word from Vega. The mayor and Dr. Harrington didn't go home. Their private jet filed a flight plan for a non-extradition. Country, they're running, Reynolds said, not taking his eyes off Ajax. Not successfully. FBI was waiting at the airport. They're both in custody. Chen placed a supportive hand on Reynolds' shoulder. How is he? Before Reynolds could answer, Ajax's monitor alarm sounded, a shrill, urgent beeping that brought Dr. A. Patel rushing back in, blood pressure dropping, she announced, checking readings. Pulse erratic. Reynolds stood, helpless as the medical team converged around his partner. What's happening? His system is reacting to the antidote, Dr. Patel explained, administering additional medications. It's fighting the neurotoxin, but the process itself is stressing his already compromised organs. For several heart-stopping minutes, the alarms continued as Ajax's vital signs fluctuated wildly. Then, gradually, the monitors stabilized. Dr. Patel checked her readings, a cautious relief softening her features. Holding steady, she confirmed. The antidote appears to be working. The toxin levels in his bloodstream are decreasing. Reynolds exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He'll recover. It's too early for guarantees, Dr. Patel cautioned. But if he makes it through the next few hours, his chances improve significantly. Outside, in the waiting area, Morgan was coordinating with her editor, preparing the exposé that would break in the morning edition. Chen received updates from the team processing Dr. Harrington's lab. They'd found detailed records of all experiments, including video documentation of the tests performed on shelter animals. They've also located a hidden room at the facility, Chen reported. Climate-controlled storage unit containing biological samples. From the test subjects? Reynolds asked. Chen's expression darkened. And DNA matching Thomas Reeves. Reynolds closed his eyes briefly. So he never made it out of town. They're expanding the search to a property owned by the mayor's development company outside the city limits, Chen continued. Ground-penetrating radar shows. Disturbances. The weight of it all, the corruption, the callous disregard for life. The calculated evil behind such polished public personas settled heavily between them. How does someone like Vanessa Harrington go from veterinarian to this? Reynolds wondered aloud. Ambition corrupted by opportunity, Chen suggested. She had the knowledge. Her husband had the power and connections. Together, they could bypass the ethical oversight that would have prevented her research. Morgan joined them, tablet in hand. Just received information from a source at Cyfex. The military contract was for enhanced detection systems with potential battlefield applications. Estimated value, $200 million. 200 million reasons to poison shelter dogs and murder a graduate student, Reynolds said. Bitterly, the hospital corridor suddenly bustled with activity as Captain Vega arrived with FBI agents in tow. Agents Sharp and Rodriguez, Vega introduced them. They're handling the federal side of the investigation. Illegal pharmaceutical development, fraud, conspiracy. Agent Sharp, a stern-faced woman in her 50s, addressed Chen and Reynolds. We're going to need detailed statements from both of you. The evidence you've gathered is crucial to our case. There's more, Chen told her, retrieving the hard drive from her bag. Complete documentation of everything. The experiments, the military contract negotiations, communications with Cyfex executives. Agent Rodriguez nodded appreciatively. This will help ensure the charges stick. A soft sound from Ajax's room drew Reynolds' attention. He returned to find his partner's eyes open, unfocused but aware, struggling against the sedation. "Hey, boy," Reynolds whispered, moving closer. "You're going to be okay." Ajax's tail twitched weakly against the bed, the slightest movement, but to Reynolds it meant everything. Dr. Patel checked the monitors, genuine smile breaking through her professional reserve. Neurotoxin levels continuing to decrease. Kidney and liver functions stabilizing. She looked at Reynolds. He's responding to the antidote exactly as we hoped. For the first time in days, Reynolds allowed himself to believe that Ajax might survive, that justice for one loyal K9 officer could expose a corruption that reached from City Hall to corporate boardrooms. By morning, Oak Ridge had transformed. Police cruisers surrounded City Hall. FBI agents carried boxes of documents from the mayor's office. News vans lined the streets, their satellite dishes raised like exclamation points punctuating the city's shock. The Oak Ridge Chronicle's headline blazed across newsstands and digital screens. Mayor's wife conducted illegal animal experiments. K9 officer poisoned in cover-up. Morgan's byline topped a meticulously documented exposé, complete with photographs, evidence timelines, and quotes from officials. At the veterinary hospital, Reynolds woke in the chair beside Ajax's bed, his neck stiff from the awkward position. The K9's condition had stabilized overnight. Though still critical, his vital signs showed steady improvement. The worst is behind him, Dr. Patel reported during morning rounds. The antidote is working exactly as intended. His latest blood work shows neurotoxin levels down 60%. Reynolds gently stroked Ajax's head, noticing more responsiveness in the dog's eyes. He recognizes me. Neural pathways are beginning to recover, Dr. Patel confirmed, though we won't know the extent of permanent damage until he's further along. In recovery, Chen arrived with coffee and breakfast sandwiches, dark circles under her eyes, testifying to a sleepless night, processing evidence and giving statements. "Dr. Harrington is cooperating," she announced, handing Reynolds a coffee. Apparently, she realized her husband was preparing to make her the scapegoat. She's turned state's evidence in exchange for consideration in sentencing. Reynolds accepted the coffee with a nod of thanks. "And the mayor?" Maintaining innocence, claiming he knew nothing about his wife's research methods. Chen's expression made her opinion of this defense clear. "But the evidence is overwhelming, especially after what they found at the property outside town." She didn't need to elaborate. The discovery of Thomas Reeves's remains had already made national news. The graduate student buried on land owned by the mayor's development company. "What about the animals at her lab?" Reynolds asked. "Animal welfare officers took custody overnight, 27 dogs total. Some will need extensive rehabilitation, but most should recover." Chen's voice softened. "The shelter's legitimate. Staff is devastated. They had no idea what was happening to the animals selected for special programs." Captain Vega joined them, carrying an official-looking folder. "Just came from the commissioner's office," she said, her usual stern demeanor softened by the hint of a smile. You two are officially reinstated, with commendations for exceptional service. She handed Reynolds a document, the official police report detailing the case from Ajax's poisoning to the arrests of the Harringtons and Dr. Webb. The FBI is expanding the investigation to Cyfex Laboratories, Vega continued. Looks like several executives were directly involved in arranging the illegal research. Reynolds nodded, his attention drawn back to Ajax as the dog's tail thumped weakly against the bed. He's fighting, Reynolds said, pride evident in his voice. Like his partner, Chen observed. Dr. Patel entered with another promising update. His kidney function is improving. If this trajectory continues, we can move him out of intensive care tomorrow. As morning progressed, Reynolds maintained his vigil while processing the reports. Chen brought from the investigation. Dr. Harrington's full confession painted a disturbing picture. Her early career frustrations when ethical committees rejected her research proposals, her husband's suggestion that they create their own rules, the gradual escalation from cutting corners to outright illegal experimentation. She claims she never intended to harm Ajax, Chen explained. Says he must have found and been exposed to samples Reeves had hidden before they dealt with him. Convenient justification, Reynolds replied, his voice hard. By afternoon, Ajax showed even more improvement. His eyes tracked movement around the room, and he responded to Reynolds' voice with alert ears and a strengthening tail wag. Reynolds received another visitor, Ellie Morgan, looking both exhausted and exhilarated by her breaking story. Thought, "You'd want to see this," she said, handing him a tablet displaying the Chronicle's latest update. The Harrington Animal Shelter Board has voted unanimously to rename the facility and establish a foundation for rehabilitating the experimental subjects. The article included a photograph of the rescued dogs being treated by volunteer veterinarians, with a special section dedicated to Ajax, the K9 hero whose poisoning exposed the truth. Reynolds glanced at his partner, who had finally fallen into a natural, healing sleep. He'd probably prefer a steak to a headline, Morgan smiled. I think that can be arranged when he's ready. 3 weeks later, Reynolds stood at his front door, keys jangling nervously in his hand. Inside the house, he'd prepared everything. Ajax's bed positioned in the living room for easy access, water bowl filled, medication organized on the kitchen. Counter. Ready? Dr. Patel asked, standing beside the transport van where Ajax waited. Reynolds nodded, swallowing the emotion that threatened to overwhelm him. After 21 days of intensive treatment, Ajax was finally coming home. The Belgian. Malinois emerged from the van slowly, his movements deliberate but steady. The powerful muscles that had once propelled him effortlessly over 6-foot fences now worked with careful precision, adjusting to lingering neurological effects. He's doing remarkably well, all things considered, Dr. Patel reminded Reynolds. The permanent damage is minimal compared to what we feared. Ajax approached his partner, tail wagging with growing strength. His eyes, once clouded by poison, now held their familiar intelligence, though they would sometimes lose focus during periods of fatigue. Hey, boy, Reynolds said softly, kneeling to greet him properly. Welcome home. The city had changed dramatically. During Ajax's recovery, a special election had been called to replace Mayor Harrington. Dr. Webb and 6 Cyfex executives faced federal charges for conspiracy, fraud, and animal cruelty. The evidence from Thomas Reeves' hidden files had proven devastating to their defense. Dr. Harrington's cooperation had yielded a comprehensive understanding of their operation, how they'd used the animal shelter as a source for test subjects, falsified euthanasia records to cover their tracks, and leveraged the mayor's political connections to avoid oversight. The Oak Ridge Chronicle's front-page story that morning featured a photograph of Ajax leaving the veterinary hospital with the headline, K9 Hero Returns Home After Surviving Poisoning. And Morgan's accompanying article detailed Ajax's recovery and the ongoing criminal proceedings against those responsible. Inside Reynolds' home, Ajax moved carefully through familiar territory, sniffing and reacquainting himself with his environment. He settled onto his bed with a contented sigh that seemed to release weeks of hospital tension. "He'll need continued physical therapy," Dr. Patel explained as she reviewed the medication schedule with Reynolds. "The neurological damage affects his coordination and sometimes his sensory processing, but with consistent work, he should regain about 80% of his previous capabilities." Reynolds nodded, knowing what that meant for Ajax's career. "Not enough to return to full duty." "No," Dr. Patel confirmed gently. "His days as an active K9 officer are over. But that doesn't mean he can't still contribute." Later that afternoon, Chen visited, bringing a home-cooked meal and updates on the case. "Thomas Reeves' parents expressed their gratitude," she reported as they sat in Reynolds' kitchen. "They've established a scholarship for veterinary ethics in their son's name." Through the doorway, they could see Ajax sleeping peacefully on his bed. "The department's reviewing options for Ajax's future," Chen continued. "Captain Vega is proposing a training officer position, using his experience to help prepare new K9 recruits." Reynolds smiled at the idea. "He'd like that. He's always been good with the younger dogs." The doorbell rang, announcing Morgan's arrival with a photographer from the Chronicle. "Just a few pictures for the follow-up story," she explained. "The public has really connected with Ajax's journey." Ajax rose to greet the visitors, his movement cautious but his demeanor friendly. The photographer captured images of Reynolds and his partner together, a visual testimony to their survival and bond. "There's something else you should know," Morgan said after the photographer finished. "The former shelter, now renamed the Reeves Animal Rehabilitation Center, has something special planned. They want Ajax to be their ambassador, a symbol of resilience for the other recovering dogs." Reynolds considered the poetic justice, the K9 who had exposed the truth, now helping the other victims heal. "I think he'd be honored," Reynolds replied, watching as Ajax settled beside him, leaning against his leg in a gesture of trust and companionship. As evening fell, Reynolds sat on his porch with Ajax beside him, watching the neighborhood settle into twilight. The Belgian Malinois rested his head on Reynolds' knee, eyes alert, despite his still recovering body. "We made it, partner," Reynolds said softly, his hand finding the spot behind Ajax's ear that had always been his favorite. "We made it through." Ajax's tail thumped against the porch boards, a steady rhythm like a heartbeat, the sound of survival against impossible odds. 6 months later, autumn painted Oak Ridge in amber and gold. Officer Mac Reynolds stood at the edge of the training field, watching Ajax demonstrate a basic search pattern for 3 eager K9 recruits and their handlers. "Notice his systematic approach," Reynolds explained to the officers. "Even with his limitations, Ajax never sacrifices thoroughness for speed." The Belgian Malinois moved with purpose across the field, his gait showing only subtle signs of the neurological damage he'd survived. He located the hidden training aid with practiced efficiency, then sat beside it, looking back at Reynolds with quiet pride. "Good boy," Reynolds called, tossing Ajax his reward toy. After the poisoning, Ajax had defied everyone's expectations. Though he couldn't meet the physical demands of active patrol duty, his intelligence and experience made him invaluable as a training assistant. New handlers learned more from watching Ajax demonstrate proper techniques than from any manual. Captain Vega approached as the training session concluded. In the months since the Harrington case, she'd been promoted to Deputy Commissioner, overseeing departmental reforms. "The K9 Training Center dedication is next week," she reminded Reynolds. "The Commissioner wants Ajax front and center at the ribbon cutting." Reynolds nodded, attaching Ajax's leash. "He's earned the spotlight." Across town, Detective Chen sat in the federal courthouse, watching as Dr. Vanessa Harrington took the stand. The former mayor's wife had aged visibly during her 6 months in custody, her elegant appearance replaced by prison-pale skin and institutional clothing. Her testimony had been crucial in securing convictions against her husband, Dr. Webb, and the Cyfex executives. In exchange for cooperation, prosecutors had recommended a reduced sentence, still substantial, but offering the possibility of eventual freedom. "The defendant may make her statement," the judge announced. Dr. Harrington rose, her voice steady despite her circumstances. "I began my career wanting to help animals, to advance medical treatments that would alleviate suffering. Somewhere along the way, ambition corrupted that purpose. I justified cruelty in the name of progress, pain in the service of profit." She paused, seeming to search for words. "I cannot undo the harm I've caused to innocent animals, to Thomas Reeves, to Officer Reynolds and his partner Ajax. I can only acknowledge my actions and accept the consequences." Chen remained expressionless as the judge delivered the sentence. 15 years, with possibility of parole after 10. Justice served, but at what cost? A brilliant mind corrupted, lives destroyed, trust shattered. After the hearing, Chen met Reynolds and Ajax at the newly opened Reeves Animal Rehabilitation Center. The facility had been transformed from the former Harrington Animal Shelter into a state-of-the-art treatment center for abused and traumatized animals. "How did the sentencing go?" Reynolds asked, as they walked through the sunny courtyard where recovering dogs played under careful supervision. "As expected," Chen replied. "Richard Harrington still maintains ignorance, but he's facing 20 years for conspiracy, obstruction, and accessory to murder." Ajax moved easily among the shelter dogs, many of them survivors of Dr. Harrington's experiments. Something in his demeanor communicated understanding to these fellow victims. A canine empathy that transcended human explanation. Morgan joined them, camera in hand, to document Ajax's monthly ambassador visit for her ongoing series on the case aftermath. "The federal investigation into Cyfex has expanded to 3 other research facilities," she informed them. "Your case broke open something much bigger." They paused at a memorial plaque bearing Thomas Reeves' photograph and a simple inscription. "His courage revealed the truth. His legacy protects the vulnerable." Reynolds watched Ajax interact with a particularly traumatized shepherd mix. Patient, gentle, somehow communicating that healing was possible. "He's not the same dog he was," Reynolds observed. "The poison changed him physically, but in other ways, he's stronger," Chen finished. "Like all of us." As evening approached, Reynolds and Ajax walked through Oak Ridge Park, where a small crowd had gathered for the unveiling of a new statue. A bronze canine officer standing vigilant, commemorating service animals who had given everything to protect their community. Ajax sat beside Reynolds as the mayor, newly elected, on a platform of transparency and ethical governance, gave a short speech about courage and second chances. The autumn light caught Ajax's silver-tinged muzzle as he surveyed the park with attentive eyes. Not a detector of drugs or criminals anymore, but something perhaps more valuable, a living symbol of resilience, justice, and the unbreakable bond between partners who had faced death together and emerged victorious.